You're looking good.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Calling this meeting to order. It is September 8th, 2021. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll do a moment of silent reflection, please. All right, thank you, everybody. I think we've got the Zoom thing figured out. So what we're going to do is we're going to have Sam. We're going to start off with the board members for the roll call. So we'll do the board members first. Sam, go down the list and just say present. And then we will not forget the NDA staff too as well. So they'll be after the board members. Okay, go ahead, Sam.
Valerie Drake.
Here.
David Kuhn. Got *6 there. I know he's on.
Present.
Tim Dufresne.
Here.
Charlie Frey.
Here.
Varlin Higby.
Here.
Heather Lackey.
Here.
Paul No.
Here.
Pete Paris. Jim Snyder.
I'm here.
Bernard Peterson.
Here.
Woody Worthington.
Present.
Director
Mr.
Ott.
Chairman,
Yes.
Chairman, I'm sorry. Samantha, I didn't know if you caught me or not. Dave Kuhn is present.
I did. I got you.
Thank you. I'm sorry to
It was real quiet. We got you though. Thank you. All right, go ahead,
Thank you.
Samantha, with the NDA stuff.
Director Ott.
Here.
Deputy Director Conrad.
Here.
Division Administrator Cadence Matievich.
Present.
Dr. Mitchell.
Here.
Division Administrator Ashley Jepson.
Present.
Deputy Administrator Patricia Hockey.
Here.
I think I have it. All right, I'm good.
I'm here.
We got
Sam,
you.
there's
Thank
a
you.
few more NDA employees on the
Oh,
Zoom.
do you want me to get them all?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you
Yes,
also
please.
need to recognize the DAG as well.
Okay. Sorry. Deputy Attorney General Richard Yen.
Here. Hi.
Going down my list. Amber Smyer.
Present.
Brandon Bishop.
Present.
Dylan Davidson.
Present.
Sierra Russell.
Present.
Going down. Dr. Shujiski. Where's Bill?
Present.
I do believe I have everyone.
I was trying to follow along. I think you got everybody too. It's kind of hard switching screens, but thank you so much, Samantha. Well, you've been doing a good job today. So go ahead and tell everybody about public comment, what they need to know, and how it's going to work on the Zoom, please.
For public comment, if you are joining us via the web, there is towards the bottom of your screen, you have an option where you can raise your hand or next to your name in the participant list. If you press more, you should be able to raise your hand there as well. If you are, and once you raise your hand, we'll call on you and we'll have you unmute yourself and you can provide your public comments. If you are joining by phone, to raise your hand that way, so I know you would like to make public comment, you can press *9, and when you're called on, you can press *6 to unmute yourself.
Perfect. Yeah, so we're on agenda item number 2 on public comment. Do we have anything come in via email or anything on that, Samantha?
No, sir.
Thank you. So it's open for public comment. Is there any public comment at this time? I'll let everybody hit all their buttons and unmute if they have to. See any hands or anything, Samantha? I don't.
No, Chairman, I do not.
Awesome. Okay, we'll go ahead and close public comment. Line item agenda number 2. We're going to go to agenda number 3. The meeting minutes. Samantha has sent those to all the board members. Hopefully you had a time to look over them. If not, we'll go ahead and do a 2-minute review at this point.
What is this, Commissioner Higbee? I'll move to approve the minutes.
Awesome. That's a first on approval of June 7th, 2021 minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Woody.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Heather. Did you get that, Samantha?
Yes.
We got a first and a second for approval of the June 7th, 2021 minutes. All in favor say aye.
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 Perfect. It's so all those opposed say nay. It's so moved. The approval of June 7th, 2021 minutes are approved. Thank you. It's just a little bit of lag time. I apologize. So we got the minutes done. We're moving to agenda item number 4. We're gonna Samantha's gonna call out your name, and board members, please do updates. I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of smoke conversation in that too as well. So go ahead, Samantha.
We're going to start with Ms. Drake.
Oh, hi. I guess there's been quite a lot going on in the petroleum side this year. There's been many shortages. Fuel prices, as everybody knows, have been sky high, mostly caused by the shortages in not just our area, everywhere. But I guess on the good side, it's been starting to clear up a bit, just like the smoke. And we're getting, prices have been coming down the last couple, 2-3 weeks pretty significantly. So I think hopefully with the fall coming, things going down, we'll get back to normal. And that's about all I have to say right now. Thank you.
Thanks, Valerie. We always like to hear gas prices going down for sure. Go ahead, Sam.
Mr. Kuhn.
Yes, on the bright side, our the retail sales in the industry have remained strong. The food service side has certainly been dented. Specifically in our state, it's coming back a little bit, but it's a little bit slower than what we had anticipated, but it is making a steady incline. We're grateful for that. Resin has taken a tremendous spike, and that of course impacts our packaging. And I'm sure that everyone has felt the other subject that I'll address is labor. We've had a real challenge in trying to find people that want to come to work. So, but generally speaking, we're optimistic, and the cows are still giving milk. We're grateful for that, and there is still a demand. So that's about where we are.
Awesome. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Mr. Dufresne.
On the good side, the prices look pretty good this year, right? At the time being anyways. Things look pretty optimistic as long as we don't have a big disaster. On the bad side is still the drought, and that's really bad and getting scarier all the time every day. Hopefully in the next couple of days, we're supposed to get some rain. We'll see, but we're going to need a lot of it. But anyways, that's pretty much all I have.
Thank you, Tim.
Mr. Frey.
Good morning. This is Charlie Frey. The farmers in our area, of course, are in a very bad drought situation. The reservoirs are very low right now. Our supply of agriculture products as a result of that are down a little, but the prices are high for hay and grain and other commodities. And a lot of that is due to the inflation kind of moving in a little, which helps the farmers. The problem is the cost of producing crops is risen substantially. And so the farmers are experiencing some problems that way. Their net worth probably is going up because of the cost of or the inflation, but it's really not the cost or the price of their land and everything. It's more a problem with the deflation of the dollar, which drives the price of their, and that's really tough to understand because the United States dollar is, I keep track of it very carefully in comparison to other world currencies. And there are 90 some other world currencies that I compare it to. And if those other world currencies inflation goes up, our dollar remains a little bit more stable. But in the past, recently, I've seen our dollar shrinking. So it's a very big concern to me on the world marketplace of how our commodities are being sent to other countries. Again, that is kind of a positive note for our farmers, but with the drought and everything, it's still very difficult. And I think that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlie.
Commissioner Higbee.
Yes, there's kind of like Tim, or in spots. If you're lucky enough to get rain here, there seems like when the drought ends, it comes in a flood. And that's kind of what in southern Nevada, what we've ended up with is some major flooding in Lincoln County and White Pine and Nye counties washed out our roads, but it's just spotty. It hits here and it hits there, and the rest of it's kicking up dust 5 miles away. So yeah, we're still struggling with drought. Like I say, if your allotment happened to be lucky enough to get one that gets rain, the grass is 1.5 feet tall and the brush is growing and things are looking good, but 5 miles away where it didn't rain, maybe not so good. So it's just it's looking tough going into winter. If you got rain, you were lucky. If you didn't, your winter is going to be tough.
Thank you, Varlin.
Ms. Lackey.
Good morning, everybody. Heather Lackey here for the record. So quiet is what I would say is this last quarter has been very quiet. I think that we're all just out there doing what we do, working and trying to keep up with the demand of, like everyone's saying, labor shortages and what have you, and glad to see that the smoke's clearing up. Definitely, that's a big benefit. But I'm gonna stay with no news is good news at this point, the flavor of the world that we have today. So I'm just gonna stay with that. Thanks so much, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you, Heather. We concur, I guarantee it. Go ahead, Sam.
Mr. No.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, from Clark County down here, we got pretty much the same in the rain area. Some parts of town got it heavy, some didn't. Our business, though, is staying pretty steady, even though pricing of our products that we buy, shipping delays, rising cost on everything, it has caused us to have to raise prices as well. But I think that's a situation with everybody. So basically our business has stayed pretty steady and actually not too bad. We haven't suffered a lot, but our plant material all over town has suffered quite a bit from our hot summer heat stress. But we keep plugging away at it, and people seem to be very willing to start gardens or maintain gardens. So we're very lucky in that area that people are paying more attention to growing their own food, landscaping with drought tolerant plants. So we've been fortunate in that area.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Paul.
Mr. Paris.
Unmute button.
I think we got you.
He struggles with that.
Are you on, Pete?
See your lips moving, nothing.
There you go.
You're good.
Am I there now?
Perfect. I can hear you.
Okay. Well, I want to start with the good news. Lamb prices are at the historical highest they've ever been. The only sad part about that is the predator issue is probably getting close to the highest it's ever been also. So every time you see something lost to predators, the dollar signs go quite a bit higher. So also the drought, as other people have mentioned, has been terrific for every sheep man in the state. As you know, sheep this time of the year live in the high country. People have been trying to haul water where most times we only go in there with a pack horse, let alone trying to get a vehicle in there. The price of fuel has killed a lot of producers. We've been burning fuel like it's going out of style, and that's been very expensive. So that kind of washes it all out, but we're just happy that we have the prices that we have. Anyway, that's about it for the sheep industry side of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. Appreciate it.
Mr. Peterson.
Good morning. I'll mirror what several of the other operators spoke to as far as severe and extreme drought conditions in eastern and southern Nevada. Again, those monsoonal rains were very targeted, and it's still most of the state is still under severe drought. With that said, feed prices seem to be stabilizing. Our export alfalfa is running between $250 and $260 a ton. It went up above that and it's come back down. Cattle prices seem to be holding really strong. 500-pound steer calves are in the 180s and 190s. Western lambs, depending on their condition, their health, are running that $230 to $280 per hundredweight, which, like Pete said, is very good considering the drought conditions and the numbers. There's going to be some survivability in the industry just because of pricing. And then corn futures has come down $2.55 in the last month. So that resource is going to be available at a lot better price if it can help the livestock producers carry some animals through the winter. You know, corn prices coming down. Feeder price is staying strong, and the fat market is staying pretty steady. So all in all, I said, you know, drought conditions have been terrible, but livestock pricing and commodity pricing is fairly strong. And I can see the positive side of where we're headed. Hopefully we get some winter snowpack and precipitation in the fall.
Thank you, Bernard.
Mr. Snyder.
Yeah, hi, everybody. Drought is a big issue here. Most producers are nearly out of water or out. Hay production is curtailed as a result of drought, but of course the hay market has been strong. Onion harvest is in full swing, and onion crop here, as well as apparently all over the West, is reduced as a result of heat and drought. I think Mason Valley probably, well, no, it's been reduced here too. We are looking at a strong onion market. As far as the other crops, the greens and vegetables, they appear to be on track production-wise, and I'm not in touch with those markets. But things are moving along here anyway.
Thank you, Jim.
Chairman Worthington.
Let's see, Douglas County. We finally got a little bit of smoke. It's sad when you chase that AQI and you're happy because it's below 200. So that's kind of caused a little bit of issues for, believe it or not, putting up hay. It kind of puts in a false layer. But a lot of the guys here put their hay up, the grains up. A few guys have some corn left. But yeah, the drought is an issue. Hopefully we can get some of that weather that they're talking about. And it's really put a lot of the screws to management. I mean, as far as, you know, looking at, you know, what crop you can go without. So it's been struggle here in Douglas. But like I said, with the fires kind of subsiding a little bit, it's reality that we live in now. As forest management and, you know, dry conditions don't really help on our side. But one positive thing, I was over at Starbucks the other day and they said that they have a ton of pumpkin spice lattes. So that's a good thing, I guess, in the scheme of things here in Douglas County. But I think for the most part, we're hoping for rain and that should do it. We got everybody then?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you guys for the board members for your updates, and the struggle's real as far as water and management and the value of the dollar. It's kind of a crazy world we live in, but as ranchers and farmers, and operators, we push through as best we can. So we'll move into agenda item number 5 on the director's report. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Thank you, Chairman Worthington. Jennifer, Director of the Department of Agriculture. You know, it's too bad that those pumpkin spice lattes aren't actually made with real Nevada pumpkins, because then we'd be in a lot better position. But
we'll have to work on that.
Yes, they are still delicious. So you have my report either sent to you or attached and available online. I will hit some of the highlights, and if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. To start, this has been an incredibly busy quarter for the Department of Agriculture. A lot of industry happening right now, a lot of questions. Of course, we are fielding a lot of calls on the drought. We are working with USDA on those issues. There are funding opportunities coming. It seems like weekly. And so vetting those and providing feedback is really important. So there's, we just have a lot going on in this quarter. I continue to work with our government's team and federal delegation to obtain funding for Nevada's food and ag sector. This is, again, there's a lot of opportunities for funding, not only from the American Rescue Plan Act, but also the upcoming infrastructure bill that we are watching very closely that might potentially have some big impacts, positive impacts for our rural areas in Nevada. For the American Rescue Plan Act funding, we are hoping to fund the Home Feeds Nevada Agricultural Food Purchase Program, which was SB 370 that was passed in the last legislative session. And this program is to contract with farmers and ranchers to purchase products for distribution to food banks. So this would be a food purchasing program to have Department of Agriculture support Nevada farmers and ranchers for the benefit of those food insecure populations. We also have been brainstorming with various industries and reaching out to determine which projects could benefit the food and ag industry the most with these dollars that the state has access to. We're looking at certainly meat processing facilities and a department inspection program. We're certainly looking at infrastructure investment, not only for the industry and the department. The Treasurer's Conine has been out and doing his 75 meetings in 75 days. 4 ideas for this. I really encourage you and members of your industry to attend those meetings to provide feedback on ideas on what that funding solution could look like and how it could be used to best support the food and ag industry. If you happen to miss those meetings, always feel free to reach out to me to provide that feedback. And so then that way we can do the best we can to really make those investments count. Along the funding, we have also been working with the federal delegation and our partners for long-term funding that will go in the federal budget. There were 2 items that have so far made it through the federal budget. Obviously, it has not been approved yet. That's still coming and being negotiated with Congress, but there were 2 line items that the Department of Agriculture was able to get in. One was a request for funding to help with the management of the Virginia range feral and stray horses for expanded birth control efforts and public safety measures. And we're also hoping with these funds to hire a position, even if it's short term, to field calls and to assist with those efforts so that we can get a big push on public safety there. And also the other project is a pilot project for food distribution in rural areas. So we're looking at those 2 kinds of programs. So not only we're looking at those 2 kind of programs, we're always looking at other programs as well. Our focus is to absolutely use the American Rescue Plan Act funding to the best we can, but also being forward-looking as well. Those dollars will run out in 2024, and we want to make sure that we are planning for the future as well. Along those lines, there has been a lot of participation and work with NASDA, the National Association of State Departments of Agriculture, in the last quarter. As we hear about animal disease outbreaks, as we hear about food safety outbreaks, as we hear about requests for information from federal agencies, again, to guide those dollar investments, I have been participating quite frequently in those meetings to make sure that Nevada's voice is well represented in those national conversations. And also, as the director for the Department of Agriculture, I was also appointed as chairwoman to the Nevada Food Security Council last year. And we have been meeting quarterly and have determined to undertake a 12-month strategic planning process. And so we had our first strategic planning meeting on that a couple of weeks ago. And so we will be undertaking a strategic planning process with the Food Security Council to better focus our efforts in food insecurity with sort of the new information we have, not only due to the pandemic, but sort of the resulting economic conditions. So that is something that I will be happy to report out on in the future. As far as partner coordination, the department sent a letter to county managers, county commissioners, our federal delegation, and other partner groups to notify them about our Mormon cricket funding. A copy of the letter has been attached to my report so that you can read that. I know that this has been a concern with the board, and which is why I wanted to raise it here, is that our Mormon cricket funding is due to run out in 2022. This was funding that was granted to the states of Nevada, Idaho, and Utah through a congressional act. And Utah and Idaho are out of funding. Nevada still has some funding left, but it will expire in 2022. So we are engaging the counties and our federal delegation to address this and to potentially work on over the next year and a half to procure additional funding for the treatment of Mormon crickets. Which, you know, again, this is something that the board has talked about in the past and has concerns of, especially in those counties that get the overrun of crickets. We have been working with the Division of Conservation and Natural Resources on a state drought action plan. The drought groups that have been meeting up until this point have really been focused on drought monitoring and drought response. But what we have absolutely learned this year is that there really hasn't been much, at least on a state level, focused on the drought impacts felt by the agriculture industry, which what I would argue is the industry that feels it the most in this state. And so we're partnering with DCNR to look at what can be done in future years and what can the state response be as soon as there is a drought designation declared. So we are looking at that. And again, as a board and as a representative of your industries, if you have any feedback on that, it would be great. It doesn't make sense for us to create solutions that actually doesn't solve anything or, you know, has a very minimal impact to the industry. So if we're looking at feed purchase programs, if we're looking at water hauling programs, if we're looking at some policy work with the BLM or USDA, we're certainly looking at the language from Farm Service Agency on how they are structuring their drought relief loans and grants. So if there's any feedback on that, we would greatly appreciate hearing that from you. Because it'll help us in going in the right direction and not wasting too much time. So I thank you for any feedback that you have on that. In August, I traveled down to Las Vegas and met with many of our food partners that had been operating during the pandemic. It was my first trip to Vegas that I'd taken since the pandemic started. And so there was a lot of discussions going forward about, again, ideas on how we can further work together to invest those American Rescue Plan Act funds. And just two more items under the executive branch portion. I did testify in the executive branch audit committee to discuss our audit findings of our federally funded child nutrition programs. If anybody looks at that audit report, it looks pretty scary. Really, the results that had come out of that is that we are very behind in our investments in technology within the department. And so that we're not able to report out as quickly and effectively as we should be So we're looking at definitely in this next budget cycle and keeping track of Smart 21 investments, which is the state technical program, sort of technology investment program, to make sure that the department is up to date on that as much as we can and as budget allows. So in the last budget cycle or in the last legislative cycle, if you'll remember that we did get the approval to invest in a laboratory information management system, which will track all of our lab tests across the department under one umbrella. And so certainly looking at that for fiscal reporting and also grants management will be important in the future. And then also, of course, as many of you might have seen, I participated in the visit. Secretary Vilsack did come to Las Vegas in August. Time flies. He came to Las Vegas in August to visit with a school in Clark County in order to talk about those nutrition programs and also talk about some of the Jobs Act and infrastructure programs that are working their way through Congress now. So that was a great visit and it was a great representation of Nevada. So with that, Chairman, I've hit the highlights. Is there anything else you would like me to cover or questions?
Totally appreciate it, Jennifer. You and your team has been pretty busy keeping up kind of like the after fog of legislation. Yeah. But it seems pretty good. Sounds like definitely the Mormon cricket thing. We've got to hop on that. And I got a quick question for you on the specific Rescue Plan Act funds. Is there certain criteria that need to be met to earmark stuff for that funding amount?
Yes, there are. So all funding that is expended under the American Rescue Plan Fund does have to follow the guidance that's not only laid out in the Act, but also guidance from the Department of Treasury. Department of Treasury did release their initial guidance. I believe it was either May or June. It has since been revised several times, but that guidance is available online. If anybody wants to go look for it to help guide ideas, I would also try to Google overviews of the Treasury guidance, because the guidance, I think as it stands, is about 150 pages long. So
that sounds like fun. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Does any other board members have direct questions for Jennifer Ott? Go ahead, Varlin.
Yeah, Jennifer, those websites that you're talking about for the Recovery Act funding, you can find all those, excuse me, you can find all those website links. If you go to the NACO, Nevada Association of Counties websites, they're all listed there. It makes it easy to, because the NACO's laid it out for all the counties, so it makes it really easy to go and find them. And it's on both sides of it. And the other question I got is the question on it sounds like they're putting together a drought management team to create what's your objective there? Are they going to create a plan? How do we get input on that? Who's seated on the board? What's their objectives? There's a whole bunch of questions.
Sure, of course. Jennifer, I'm not 100% sure. I'm not sure that I didn't know that the group had that name. Maybe there's another group. I'm not quite sure, but I can look into it a little bit more. And as we get more and more involved, I can certainly report that out, whether it's through my report or maybe through Administrator Jepson's report as well. So, from what I understand, certainly there has been a drought management team or a group that has been meeting, certainly on the monitoring and research portions of it. But there hasn't, but we're really, at least my focus in participating on this is really actionable items for our industries. Is what are we able to do, whether it's from a funding perspective or a policy perspective, to be able to put those programs or opportunities in place that will help producers in the future. So It's not an emergency response, unfortunately, but it is for better preparedness.
Yeah, just to follow up, I mean, there's a lot of great ideas out there that could be tapped into. I mean, our conservation districts within the counties, money could be funneled through them, but there's a lot of projects with the I guess what I'm trying to say is what's been lacking in the last 50 years is since the 3 C's, is there hasn't been a whole lot of work done on, upgrade of corrals and panel and pipelines and cleaning. You know, there's reservoirs out on the playas in these places that at one time were 25, 30 feet deep. Now they're 2 feet deep. And so when it rains, it don't hold any water. And a lot of times the ranchers there's not the profit margin in the livestock and sheep industry is so thin that you don't have the money to put in new pipelines and clean reservoirs and a lot of back maintenance. And something else that I see that's just really blossomed in the last 10 or 12 years of, actually for me, it's been about 15 years that we started putting in tanks, burying tanks and where they don't freeze and putting in water systems for winter. What they are is they're used fuel tanks. So they dig them up out of these fiberglass tanks. They're digging them up out of saying maybe we could work with the fuel industry too and the EPA, maybe funnel it through the Department of Ag. You had to let them take the lead on it to where we could get those tanks instead of just crushing them and send them to the dump. You get 10, 12, 15, 20,000 gallon tanks. They pull them up and they have to clean them before they can get rid of them. So they clean them and then they run over them with a big machine and mash them down and haul them to the dump, which you could be repurposing those tanks out on our rangelands for water storage.
No, I think that your point is a good one, is that I think there's definitely been conversations regarding investments in water saving technology, but sometimes even just fixing what's already out there it is a good investment to be able to do that before we sort of, tackle new technologies. So if we're talking about, unlined ditches, if we're talking about, leaking pipes, and anything along those lines, it's a good flag. So I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thanks, Farley.
Maybe we have this conversation offline sometime. Maybe we can help get direction on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Farley. Tim, you had a question.
Yeah, first of all, I wanted to tell Jennifer, thank you. I do appreciate that you guys are working on action items on that on the drought instead of just monitoring and research and all that. It's obvious it's a drought, and I do appreciate you working on action stuff. That's where the work needs to go. So thank you on that. My question is two things, I guess, but it was on the Virginia range horses. Did you come up with a boundary with the BLM? Were you guys able to come up with a boundary? And the second part of it is I see you requested the 500,000 from USDA. Kind of where is that, or is that a long ways out, or what's the story on that?
Sure. So Jennifer Ott for the record. So for the first one, no, we haven't determined the boundary. There's not a final decision yet. Our DAG is currently doing research on that, and then we will have a meeting with the BLM to discuss those findings. So that's in progress. The second one about the funding, as far as I understand it, that funding will be a part of the federal appropriations bill. And so as you see the appropriations going through Congress, if there's a continuing resolution, our funding will be caught up in that continuing resolution. And, so as soon as the government is funded, as far as I understand it, that will be funded. And so the next status then is that we will have to go to IFC to bring that money into the state government, and then we can start working. So there's a few processes until then, but the fact that it's even in there is a win.
Yeah, okay. I see you have been there for fencing and all that stuff, which is great, and do something with it. So, okay, thank you. That answers my questions. Thank you.
Any other board members have questions for Jennifer? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and move on to, thank you again, Jennifer. Keep up the good work with you and your team. Awesome job. We're going to move on to agenda item number 6. This was brought up to me by one of the board members. So I'm going to shift it off to him. It's recovery funding allocations of wildlife services helicopter. We're going to have basically a discussion in regards to that if someone has any comments, but I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Paris. Go ahead and tell us what your idea on this, if you would, please.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
We got you. You're on it. You're proficient. You're tearing it up.
Oh, I'm getting smarter. I don't know. In the mute section, I don't know if I'm getting smarter anywhere else. But anyway,
okay,
thanks you for putting it on the agenda. We had several topics, and it's been brought to my attention that we need to try to get the board updated and more involved in recovery funding for the program, and the story of a possible helicopter that could be purchased for the state of Nevada. Our goal was to get this discussed and hopefully see where we can go with it. In the meantime, I've learned though that maybe it was a bigger dream than what we were anticipating. We're not seeing a lot of administrative support for it. So, you know, we've kind of let some time go by, but it had been identified by the state and federal agencies, as well as grazing boards and agriculture associations memberships, and that a dedicated helicopter would be useful for wildlife damage management and activities in the state of Nevada. It would protect agriculture, and also this helicopter could have been used for natural resource protection, as in big game. It could have been used for federal and stray animal management. In February 2021, APHIS Wildlife Services was able to secure a Bell Jet Ranger 206B helicopter for Nevada's use at a cost of $180,000. That is probably, in a conservative thing, less than 10% of that value of that helicopter. The only problem Nevada had would be to fund it and to keep it going. The estimated additional funding needed to modify the aircraft was going to be between $50,000 and $80,000. And then establishing a place to hang it would have been somewhere in the neighborhood of $75,000 to $100,000. And then we would have needed funding for a dedicated pilot, gunner, and that would have been close to $200,000. We were initially hoping that with these federal programs that has sent billions of dollars to the state of Nevada, that maybe we could have appropriated somewhere around $500,000. Well, we had a hard time even getting people to want to help with that. So then we also done some more of our own homework, and even the $500,000 probably would not have been enough because of the lack of manpower. You know, we just don't have the employees to really make that helicopter totally effective. So looks like now we're going to lose that $180,000 helicopter. It's probably going to go to the state of Montana. Montana has been standing by waiting for us to either give it up or do something with it, because they just can't wait to get their hands on that helicopter. Some of the problem is the additional, park funding that we need to support these field positions. We as a board need to get more involved. So far, I know people are tired of me talking about it. I'm the only one that seems to bring it up, but we're down 7 positions in the state of Nevada. We used to have 14 positions. We're down to 7. It was brought up in you know, in 2007 was when we lost most of these positions, and it was agreed that when it was possible that we would try to get these positions back. Currently, there's been very little appetite or even any effort to get somebody to help us get these positions back. It's just not there. But in the end, the livestock industry is losing out with the wildlife service program, but also the park committee stands for predator and rodents and starlings and all of these programs. The dairy industry, you know, they have a huge starling program. Wildlife services can't even keep up with the predator program, let alone these programs. You know, my fellow board members, we need to get together and start pushing for, you know, to apply for these funds, to ask for these funds, to be willing to go fight for these funds and get wildlife services more back involved. Director Ott mentioned earlier about the disease and the other things in her report. Wildlife services has been drawing samples for disease samples and every kind of, you know, other things outside of their, you know, it's still in the realm, but outside of their of what they you know, what they're intended to do. They pull blood samples, they do, you know, all kinds of tests and furnish you know, body parts and different things to be tested for several different options. The rural community, Las Vegas, is losing dogs and cats on a daily basis. They're calling wildlife services constantly to get help, and wildlife services does not have the manpower. And now we're coming to the conclusion that even if we could get this helicopter, we don't really have enough help. We would have to pull people off of other jobs to go man the helicopter. So as a board, almost every member of this board, whether you're on the dairy industry or you're in the crop industry or the rodents, the cattlemen are using wildlife services that more and more every day. The problem is getting larger. We need to, as a board, start pushing to get some support and to get the initiative back to taking care of, so we can grow agriculture to be able to have the food to give to the programs that the Nevada Department of Agriculture can distribute. So if anybody has any questions, I guess I could try to answer them. But anyway, that was one of our reasons that we wanted to have this agenda put on, you know, added to the agenda today, so we could let people know what was happening, what could have been, and what should have been or would have been. Anyway, that's all I have to offer.
And Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead, Varlam.
I completely agree with Pete. He's spot on, but it stems from a bigger problem. And it starts with our state legislature. And we're down the food chain 2 or 3 clicks. And Jennifer can attest. So what happens is you got 87% of your seats in our legislature are out of Clark County. And out of that 87%, there might be 2% that understand agriculture at all, because they don't have a clue. They don't, what people need to understand is natural resources is all the wealth is created from natural resources somewhere, someplace. It's either mined or grown, or it does not exist. And that is not taught in the schools. And so most people don't have a clue whether food comes from, whether oil and gas comes from, and all the other necessities that you surround yourself with, including the clothes on your back. They have no idea where it comes from. And so when the legislature looks at rural America and rural Nevada, like a bull at a bastard calf because they don't understand what we're doing. And it's not enough money in it. So it's a labor of love. It's not necessarily the things that we do to make a living. It's more of a labor of love for us. And somehow we've got to get, when our legislature's in session, either get legislators that understand our plight or spend enough time in Carson City during the legislature to get our message out so they understand where we're coming from and the issues that we deal with on water. Even our water engineer, you look at the basins that they've designated in the last year, right at the bottom, it says agriculture is a non-preferred use of water in all these basins they've designated. Now that's disturbing to me. So it's not just in a box. This is a bigger picture that we're looking at. This is a picture that starts at the legislature and covers the whole state. So I don't know. I don't have no answers. Just comments.
Thanks, Farland. Appreciate that. Anybody have any other comments specifically to agenda item number 6 as far as the Wildlife Services helicopter? Pete, it sounds, so where do you want to go with this? Where do you think we should? Do you want, you know, it sounds like you did a little bit of research, and I don't know if it's a viable option, or what are you thinking, Pete?
Well, am I still, Pete Paris for the record, am I still on? Am I not?
Yes, you are. Yeah, you're good to go.
Okay. Well, that is basically, it was just giving you a report at the time when we asked to be on the agenda. We looked like maybe there could be some support.
Okay.
You know, that it would be a possibility, but just for an example too, though, as the board, where we need to push and ask for some more help is from our, you know, the Board of Ag, or the Department of Agriculture requested 3 positions for the brand department, and they were granted, but I don't think the department ever requested any of our 5 positions that's been reduced that they had promised years ago that they would try to get back. And that I know of, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think any of those positions are ever even requested to put back into the program. But yet we requested 3 positions for administrators for the brand department that I understand are going to be funded through the general fund, that those positions are going to be granted, requested and granted, and none of these other permissions or positions are requested. So us as a board, I guess we need to push for, you know, we need to start straightening some of these problems out. You know, it just keeps dwindling and dwindling, and pretty quick, we don't have any program to speak of. So I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, is my idea.
Thank you, Pete. I appreciate that. We'll have to add that for another agenda item, but so as far as the Wildlife Services helicopter is kind of a moot point, it sounds like, for any type of action item. Any other board members have comments on that specifically?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead, Paul.
Paul No, for the record. It sounds to me like that Pete's, I think the primary thing that he's asking for is those bodies to be replaced for more help with what they're trying to do. So I think that's where we ought to start, is trying to push for those positions to be refilled.
Pete Paris for the record, exactly. I mean, that's exactly where we need to start, and hopefully there will be other opportunities down the road where we will have the manpower. I know right now one of the main reasons was because of all of these federal dollars that's coming into. I know Nevada is receiving several or a few $1 billion And we thought that would have been a golden opportunity at this time, but like I said, the lack of manpower to even operate this started to, I guess we was trying to get the horse in front of the cart, or get the cart in front of the horse, excuse me. But yes, we need to work on these positions mainly right now, and then hopefully we will have another opportunity. I guess these opportunities do come up every now and again, but how soon it will be or when that will be is unknown. So.
Thank you, Mr. Paris. I appreciate it. Thanks, Paul, for your information. Like I said, we'll have to address that on another agenda item specifically, but it's for the record, it's been posted and brought up. So keeping on the agenda and focused in. I appreciate everybody's time on that. Really important wildlife services information on that.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead, Jennifer.
Before you move on, I just want to make a quick correction for the record so there's not any confusion. Any brand inspector positions that department has are not general funded. They are funded through brand inspection fees paid for by cattle and horse industries. So I just wanted to be clear that we do not have general funded positions for brand inspectors, and we don't have administrative positions for brand inspectors. I wanted to be clear.
Perfect, no problem. Appreciate that comment. It'll be on the record. We'll have to address it and probably bring it up. But thank you for your comments on that. We'll move to line item, our agenda item number 7, food and nutrition. Board update, Alma.
Could I break in for just a second here, Woody?
What do you got, Tim?
I've got to take off here for about 15, 20 minutes. I'll be back. I just want to let you know I'm disappearing here for a minute.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dufferina. Did you take a note on that, Samantha?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So we're agenda item number 7, food and nutrition. Alma, your information or your update, sorry.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
This is Patricia Hoppy. I'm the Deputy Administrator for the Food and Nutrition Division. I'll be presenting in Homa's absence today. And since you have the report in front of you, I'll just hit some of our really exciting high points that we want to share with you. So first of all, USDA has continued to release nationwide waivers in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. There were 6 that were released before the start of the school year, and NDA elected to have all of those waivers for all of our program sponsors. Another program that USDA released was a new funding program that is the Child Nutrition Emergency Operational Costs Program. It was a program that was designed to offset revenue lost to program sponsors and operators that sponsor the National School Lunch Program and the Child and Adult Food Program. Nevada participated in that, and our plan was approved, and we've been awarded approximately $13.9 million for those program sponsors that we'll be able to disperse over the next few months. For this particular school year, one of the waivers that was released was for National School Lunch Program operators to elect to operate a program called Seamless Summer Option, which is similar to the community program Summer Food Service Program, but this one is only for school food service operators. The significance of this is that all children will be able to eat free breakfast and lunch under the Seamless Summer Option program that's being operated. And the other benefit of the nationwide waiver is that USDA made the decision to allow reimbursement rates for the Seamless Summer Option that are available for summer food service programs. So the other beauty of that is they will get reimbursements at a much higher rate for this particular program during the school year through June 30, 2022. With respect to our partnership activities, we've continued with some of the partnerships that we've been reporting on during the last year with state agencies. One that I'd like to highlight is our community nutrition program is participating with our food distribution program, and they have created a work group called the Nevada Native Heritage Work Group to discuss preservation of Native heritage and food sovereignty. And they have a number of organizations that are with them, including the Cooperative Extension, the Nevada Special Nutrition Assistance Program, which is SNAP, as you know, tribal liaisons and tribal partners from the tribal communities. And one of the things that we're working on right now is a tribal cookbook that will preserve tribal heritage cooking processes, the way that they do things, particular food items, as well as recipes that we're going to be printing as part of that committee. Moving on to the program updates, I'd like to highlight our meals served. So for our child nutrition program, our child and adult care food program to date through June 30th has served 2,943,746 meals. Our summer food service program, which was the program that was elected primarily through the pandemic, starting when school closures happened, they have served 30,125,710 meals across the state of Nevada through our sponsors. Moving on to the National School Lunch and School Breakfast Program, we have served, our sponsors have served a total of 1,877,644,000 school lunches statewide and 1,183,076 breakfasts statewide. And those numbers are a little bit lower than normal because the school food service operators were operating the summer food service program, which is why our meals for that program increased so highly. We are still working with the Division of Welfare and Supportive Services to partner with them on the pandemic NBT program, pandemic EBT program. We're doing the operational cost reimbursements at our level. And so our plan has been submitted. We're waiting for approval. And when we get that, 41 school district and charter schools will be able to receive a combined $91,000 for their PEBT related costs to operate that program that we'll be able to disperse to our operators, which is really good news. With our food distribution program, looking at the emergency food assistance program, you have all the numbers for the individuals and households served in front of you. But one of the ones that I want to point out is that we have distributed 21,556,983 pounds of food statewide for that program. Yeah, it's one of our flagship programs that helps a lot of different constituencies. Awesome. And then our senior market program, which is another great program that's going on now. We were able to get approval from the USDA Western Region office to raise the amount of money that we're able to distribute to each senior, which was very, very exciting. And so we started in May with our Southern Nevada region, and then we have started in June with the Northern Nevada region, and those coupons have been distributed. And so we distributed a total of 4,800 booklets with $216,000 in purchasing power that allows seniors to purchase fresh fruits and vegetables, raw honey, and other items from participating senior farmers market and reimburse the seniors for that program with those coupons. That concludes my presentation. Does anyone have any questions?
Just a comment. Pretty awesome what you guys do. That's a lot. That's a lot of food. I mean, I was trying to put the numbers down and I just almost ran out of ink. So awesome nutritional program. I know for the schools, it's definitely a flagship for other states to really see how well you guys do. Great job.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for Patricia? Nope. Thank you so much. Hearing none, we're going to move to board update from Cadence, agenda item number 7. Go ahead, Cadence.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Cadence Matievich, Administrator for the Division of Consumer Equitability. Like my colleagues, I will hit the high points in my quarterly report. For livestock scale inspection season, we are about a week away from completing that. We will be done, the Sparks team will be done with inspections. They have one last scale in Fallon that they're inspecting today. And the Elko-based inspection team has a few remaining scales in Eureka that they'll hit next week. And with that, we will be wrapping up that program. We have a few scales that we'll need to go back and re-inspect them after they've been adjusted if they were found out of tolerance. But generally speaking, we're done with that, which is good news because it means that that personnel will be able to return to routine inspection of other weighing and measuring devices, including addressing the backlog of devices which hadn't been able to be inspected as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. You'll note in your report that we were able to get approval for expenditure of some coronavirus relief funds, CRF funds, to address that backlog, specifically overtime hours for our inspectors to address that. And we have been able to make some good progress on that over the last couple of months and have a few remaining weeks through the end of this month to continue to address that backlog. So good news and progress there. Over the last couple of months since the legislative session ended and our last report to you, we have submitted some draft regulations to the Legislative Counsel Bureau for those regulatory items that are within the authority of the State Sealer of Consumer Equitability. Details on those are included in your board report. LCB files were submitted to LCB on July 28th, and we're just waiting for their review drafts to come back, at which point we'll move into the small business impact and economic impact surveys, and then go to workshop and hearing in the coming months. So fingers crossed, those will come out of the Legimatic here pretty soon, and we can continue to move forward with those. The items that are under the board's authority, you'll be receiving an update and a request for direction on the next two items on your agenda from Dr. Strajewski. So I'll let him cover those when we get there. And then would just note the final item that's included in our report is some information regarding work that the division's been doing in partnership with the Governor's Office of Energy and the Division of Emergency Management on our operational and communications plans that we execute in times of disruption and or shortage of petroleum-based fuel supplies. We have had opportunity this summer. It's been a beneficial learning experience, but unfortunately, we've had to go through it most acutely with the Calder fire most recently, and even some interaction with the Dixie fire. So we've been able to learn some lessons on how those plans are and aren't working well. Looking forward to holding a workshop in conjunction with the Governor's Office of Energy and Division of Emergency Management in the late fall to receive industry input on those plans as we work to finalize them, and then looking at a tabletop exercise of the plans in early next calendar year. In all likelihood, we'll look at that tabletop exercise probably being a Southern Nevada-based simulation, because we have had so many opportunities, unfortunately, to actually implement the plans in their current form in the North this year. We think some focus in the southern part of the state. But I would, with your indulgence, Mr. Chairman, just take a moment to thank our petroleum industry partners for their incredible support, community support. We've been dealing with these fires, again, most acutely with the Calder fire over the last 2 weeks. The petroleum industry really stepped up in the preparedness efforts, made sure that there were adequate supplies on hand of fuels for when that huge population of Californians out of South Lake Tahoe moved into Carson, Douglas, and even up into Reno. We had some industry partners that really stepped up. Some membership-based Costco suspended their membership requirements for a period for all of the Northern Nevada-based locations to be sure that those who needed fuel to get to their destination had it. And so incredible work and support and coordination from our partners there. And I, on behalf of my colleagues, would just express our thanks to them. And we'll turn that back to you, Mr. Chairman. Happy to try to answer any questions that you or your fellow board member may have.
No, thank you, Cadence. And yeah, the little things in life, we live in our little bubble and don't realize, but yeah, the petroleum industry stepped up like immensely. We felt the effects in Douglas County, but there was no hiccup in the giddy up. We were smooth with, in the private sector as far as getting fuel too as well. They really supported that. That's a lot of logistics to get that dialed in the way it was. So thank you, Cadence, for what you and your team do. All right, so Sam, we're going to move it over. We have a request for approval on the board for submit language. Is that, who's going to speak on that, on agenda item number?
I will be, Mr. Chair.
Oh, perfect. That's right. All right, sounds good. So the floor is yours. Agenda item number 7, Bravo. Go ahead.
And that answers the question I don't have to ask on whether I can be heard. So good morning, everyone. For the record, Bill Strachewski, Chemist 5, Senior Petroleum Chemist with the Division of Consumer Equitability. So Assembly Bill 31 was submitted to the Assembly Committee on Natural Resources during the 81st legislative session by the Department of Agriculture. It was primarily a cleanup bill and an update of NRS Chapter 590, which covers motor vehicle fuel, petroleum products, and antifreeze. As you recall, at the June meeting of this board, I asked for approval to begin drafting regulations to amend and update NAC 590 as a result of the passage of this bill. I come to you at this meeting asking for approval to submit the draft regulations, which are in your board packets. That these draft regulations be submitted to the LCB for their, as Cadence says, for a trip through the legismatics. So, as a summary, this draft regulation sets out to do the following. It codifies specifications for diesel exhaust fluid, codifies specifications for fuel oils and kerosene, amends various sections to authorize the State Board of Ag to enforce specification regulations adopted for DEF, aviation fuels, and petroleum heating products, and to add these products to sections that regulate imposing fines for violations of the regulations. And it updates prices to purchase various ASTM specifications for a number of regulated fuels, specifically diesel fuel, biodiesel blend stock, which is commonly known as B100, biodiesel blends from B6 to B20, fuel methanol, which is commonly referred to as M85, ethanol flex fuels, which most people know as E85, gases, aviation gasoline, jet fuel, and automotive spark ignition engine fuel, which is the fancy term for gasoline. At this time, I ask for approval from the board to submit this draft regulation to the LCB as our next step in the rulemaking process to promulgate regulations in Chapter 590 of the NAC. Thank you.
Awesome job, Bill.
I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Bill on this particular line item?
Yes, Paul No. Paul No for the record.
Go ahead.
Bill, is the basis of this it isn't changing anything as I see other than adding what the legislature approved. Is that correct?
Nothing is being added beyond what the legislature approved. That's correct. As we commonly come before you, we need to, since we publish the ASTM specifications within the NAC, we need to make those available to the public. And as so, we are in a pretty steady routine of updating those prices, but that's the only thing that wasn't included in AB 31. Yes, sir.
Right. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Bill? It is an action item, so if someone wants to make a motion, that'd be awesome.
Paul No for the record. I recommend that we do pass this. Looks to be something that is necessary to do, and I I move that we pass.
All right, so that was a motion to request approval for the board to submit language proposing permanently amended Nevada Administration Code, Chapter 590 for motor vehicle fuel, petroleum products, and antifreeze. Is there a second?
I'll second, Commissioner Higbee.
Did you get that, Sam? We got a first and a second for approval for submittal of the language. All in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. It's so moved.
There you go, Bill.
All right, go ahead and Bill, you have the line item A, the next one, right? See?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good to
Thank
go.
you.
Sorry, it was glitchy.
I was waiting for the go ahead.
Good to go.
Yes, moving forward, Assembly Bill 411 was submitted to the Assembly Committee on Growth and Infrastructure, again during the recently completed 81st legislative session, on behalf of a national renewable fuels organization. The bill raises the maximum allowable amount of ethanol in conventional gasoline from its current maximum of 10% to a new maximum of 15%. Again, at the June meeting of this board, I asked for approval to draft regulations to amend and update NAC 590 as a result of passage of this bill. In early August, the Division of Consumer Equitability held a listening session with a variety of stakeholders, both local and national, and we received a great deal of very useful feedback. The draft regulation submitted to this board incorporates a number of these suggestions, and we believe that it satisfies the need of the regulations and addresses concerns held by the majority of the stakeholders who have provided input to date. I'll note that unique to regulations in Chapter 590 of the NAC, we are referencing a chapter outside the Department of Agriculture, specifically NAC Chapter 459, which regulates storage tanks, including underground storage tanks, administered by the Nevada Division of Environmental Protection, as well as a number of sections within the Code of Federal Regulations. In this instance, as E15 is currently significantly regulated by the federal government, it made more sense and was clearer to adopt those sections by reference than to recraft the same regulations. At this time, I ask for approval from the Board of Agriculture to submit this draft regulation to the Legislative Council Bureau as our next step in the rulemaking process to promulgate regulations in Chapter 590 of the NAC. Thank you. And again, I will at least try to answer any questions you have.
Thanks, Bill. Does the board have any questions in regards to the language proposing? I don't think you have any questions, but I think we're good to go.
All
so
right.
it's an action item once again. So if the board has no questions, someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. This is Charlie.
Thank you, Jim.
Can you hear me?
Make a motion for what, Charlie?
To go ahead and approve this.
Approve the board for submit language proposing permanently amended Nevada AC or NAC Code Chapter 590. That's a first. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Oh, no.
Thank you. You got that, Sam, Jim Snyder. There's a first and a second for approval of the board to submit the language proposing permanently amended.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is Peter Kruger. I'd like to, before the votes taken, weigh in on this issue. Is that possible?
No, I don't. We're actually in a first and a second, right, Dag? We've got a.
No, you can open for discussion, but you can ask the Jag.
Dag, are you there? Because it'd be considered a public comment, could it?
Well, you could just withdraw the first and second, open it back up for comment, and then redo the proposal again.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. We'll withdraw the first and the second. Peter, go ahead and have your comments, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Peter Kruger, representing the Nevada Petroleum Marketers Convenience Store Association. I always thought the process was we do this after the motion was on the table, but this will work. I just wanted to say that the staff, equitability staff, did a tremendous amount of work. This is a huge change, a sea change, if you will, in how retailers and wholesalers bring to market a fuel. E15 is new. It's got a lot of people supportive. It's got some people who aren't. But I wanted to put on the record that, and we did during the public hearing, support adoption of the current federal regulations. That includes labeling, has to do with the bills of lading, transfer documents, if you will, and other aspects. So we're very supportive of the hard work that was done, and believe that it satisfies the requirements of the legislative bill that was posed and required the board to take action. So just wanted on the record that we as an association are supportive of adoption as the proposed regulation is. Thank you.
You betcha, Peter. We were just quick on the finger. You got to be quicker around here. So thank you very much for your comments. We appreciate it. So once again, we're back. We need to get a motion on this for approval.
This is Charlie Gray. I'll remake my motion. Exactly.
Legalese. Yeah. So that's a motion for approval for the board to submit language proposing permanently amended Nevada Administrative Code Chapter 590 on the motor vehicle fuel, petroleum products, and antifreeze. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Awesome. Thank you, Jim Snyder. Sam, you got that?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we have a first and a second for approval for the board to submit language proposing to permanently amend NAC Code Chapter 590 motor vehicle fuel, petroleum products, and antifreeze. All of those approved, say aye.
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 All those, yes, all those that oppose, say nay. It's so moved that we got a first and a second on that. You got it, Sam?
Yes, sir.
Awesome, thank you. So I apologize, my Minder net is glitching out on me, so everybody's freezing. So hang in there. We're on agenda line item number 9, plant industry. Ashley.
Excuse me.
Yes. Good.
Can I ask a question to Candace? This is Charlie Frey. And it's based on this agenda item number 8.
So we want to go back to Candace. Okay.
Well, before we get to 9, I'd like to just ask Candace a question if she's still here.
Mr. Chairman, I'm here. With your permission, I'd be glad to take Board Member Frey's question.
Go ahead, Candace. Good to go.
Candace, I just wanted to ask you, are you aware of the fact of them pulling out these 10,000, 20,000, whatever gallon fiberglass tanks from the industry and then destroying them? Are you familiar with that, or do you come around that? Is there any way, I guess to redirect the question is, can you possibly help the farmers acquire some of those big tanks before they destroy them, so they might be able to purchase them for water and storage during the winter? It's just a waste as far as I'm concerned if they end up crushing the fiberglass tanks. And so it's a question to find out if you're aware of it. Is there anything you can do to help the farmers obtain those containers before they're crushed?
Thank you for the question. For the record, Cadence Matievich, Administrator for the Division of Consumer Equitability. Board Member Frey, yes, we are aware of that. As Dr. Strajewski noted in his presentation, regulation of underground storage tanks actually falls within the Division of Environmental Protection at the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. We do work closely with them. And could certainly reach out to them about a coordination effort that when tanks are being removed, that they could perhaps be repurposed. And additionally, I've received a message from Mr. Kruger at the Petroleum Marketers and Convenience Store Association indicating that his association could help as well. I'll work with Director Ott to coordinate with Department of Conservation and Natural Resources and see what we can do to connect the farming industry with the petroleum industry with respect to those repurposing of those underground storage tanks and get that information out to the agricultural industry on how that might be best accomplished.
Thank you very much, Candace. That would be really helpful to all these producers. It's a really win-win situation if we can do that. So thank you.
Certainly.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Varlin.
Candace, if I would be interested in helping in this process, if you need me, I would gladly sit down with the different people and explain to them the uses and the repurposing of the tanks. I would love to do that so they have a broader understanding of how they're being used and that they are not just ready for the dump, they are a useful piece of material. And I would gladly meet with them, take special whatever. Just let me know, keep me in the loop, and I'll come speak if you need me to. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Varlin.
Excuse me, if for the record, Bill Strajewski, before you move on to item 9, I just wanted to thank you, Mr. Chair, and the board for your time and approval on both of these items. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You betcha, Bill. Thank you for your work on this, for sure. All right, we're moving to agenda number 9. Thanks, Cadence, for your support in this. Moving to number 9, Ashley, for board update on plant industry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. For the record, Ashley Jepson, the Plant Industry Administrator. I'm going to just come over some things that I think might need a little bit more explanation. And of course, I'm happy to answer any questions. On the first page of your update, I do have a notice on a workshop that we're going to have pertaining to Chapter 555 and 586. I just wanted to provide a little bit of context to how we'll be structuring this specific workshop. So we'll actually be opening up that workshop with 586, which has to do with our pesticide dealer. There were a couple fairly minor changes that happened in statute over this last legislative session, and this pertains to our pest control program. So we also, during that same workshop, wanted to link that with the changes that we had with Chapter 555, which are all specific to our pest control licensing program. And with that, with Chapter 555, it's actually a fairly dynamic chapter. We have nursery, noxious weeds, and a number of other programs. So we have various changes there. So we're trying to structure it where we're covering pesticides related topics and then moving into those next related topics that might be pertinent to industry. So our agenda is very specific to this. But the reason I'm mentioning it, we're hoping this structure works best for industry and being able to participate. But if you hear otherwise and they'd like things sectioned out more, we're certainly happy to oblige. So a little bit different than how we typically do those, but we thought it might be easier for industry. So with that, moving on to my next one under pending matters of significance, I wanted to expand a little bit on Section 18 versus a Section 3. So during this last 2 years, frankly, we've had these emergency exemptions for pesticides or related type control, and a lot of that has been related to COVID-19 mitigation measures. One of the issues we've been seeing in response to this is a Section 18 truly is an emergency exemption. It's where there's something of significance that we need some rapid momentum on, versus a Section 3 that goes through all the studies. It makes sure it's a very lengthy process to get a pesticide approved by EPA through a Section 3. But what we're seeing are some concerns of trying to avoid, circumvent that Section 3 process. So we've been sticking to the Section 18. It does need to be a specific designated geographic area, and it needs to be for a short amount of time. But we anticipate this issue continuing to arise and want to make sure that folks are going through the right processes. So just wanted to bring that to your attention and just provide a little bit clarification on a Section 18 versus a Section 3 for those emergency uses of pesticides. Jumping into onto our page 2 for program updates. For our noxious weeds program, I did mention during our last board meeting that we had adopted our weed-free mulch program, and a lot of work's gone into that, and huge kudos to our team for the momentum there. And I just wanted to kind of have a shout out of we were already seeing program participation, and a huge reason for that is our coordination with other state agencies. Our state and federal partners can have a lot of momentum of requiring some of these weed free materials. And so we've seen that with NDOT. They're requiring weed-free mulch on some of their projects, and we'll hopefully continue to see more momentum because it does go a long ways with noxious weeds mitigation. Actually segueing in our ongoing coordination with NDOT, they do fund a position with the Department of Agriculture to review weed management plans for NDOT projects. One of the issues we're seeing there is these projects are multi-million-dollar projects. They're quite significant, but there's special project provisions for their weed mitigation strategies on these sites. We're seeing a little bit of inconsistencies on some of the enforcement with those. So we're working with NDOT to overcome that challenge to make sure that our efforts are working towards progress. So just wanted to make you aware of that. We did have, moving on to our seed program, we did have a positive detection of white rot in garlic seed this year. So our ongoing survey efforts are certainly not in vain. So 47 acres were quarantined and removed from seed certification. 47 acres removed from seed certification, but the impacts if that seed had entered the stream of commerce would be substantial. So not great to see white rot, but it's good that we're finding those things early on and keeping them out of stream of commerce. Okay, moving on to page 3. We are doing our small business impacts, so we've actually concluded quite a few of them for some of our chapter proposed changes. So you will be seeing one come out for Nevada Administrative Code 587. We are expecting to have a workshop here in the near future. We're just fine tuning it. There's a lot of moving pieces to 587, and a lot of it has to do with our fee authorities. But one of those particular things that just came out had to do with our proposed changes to implementing a seed retailer registration. So that would be wholesale and retail. And I just wanted to provide a little context as to our intentions there. The department has some concerns, and we've certainly seen this from our neighboring states as well, of commercial seed coming to our state that isn't viable and is transporting or is also a means of presenting noxious weeds. All of our neighboring states have a seed registration and wholesaler registration program where they're actually doing assessments of what seed is being sold to the public. Just to confirm our concerns, we did reach out to some of our state partners on some recent compliance studies that they've seen, and there was one done in 2019 in South Dakota. They pulled 200 samples for their seed registrations and found that 11.5% had compliancy issues. And those compliancy issues were what we were concerned about: germination, invasive species, noxious weeds, all those things. So consumer protection and introduction of noxious weeds, it is certainly a source of concern. So that will be one of the topics that we will have. We did just do a small business impact, and we'll be having a workshop on that specifically. But I did want to provide a little clarification. Our nursery inspectors already do take samples or they verify the seed packets when they're doing their nursery inspections, because that's for the most part where our commercial seed is being sold. So they are looking for expiration dates and any type of labeling requirements, and there wouldn't be any added cost there. It would mainly just be for taking samples of the seed and doing analysis for viability and noxious weeds and so forth. So just wanted to provide a little clarification on that. And of course, we'll have workshop, which will invite more and more discussion. Moving into our hemp program, I did bring this to your attention during the last meeting. However, I just wanted to mention that we do have a workshop an adoption hearing this month to move our temporary regulations to permanent. We're under a bit of a time crunch here because our temporary regulations expire in November, and in order for us to maintain our state plan, we have to have those fully adopted. So to get full adoption and then to get it in front of the hearing commission is a little time sensitive. So, but you'll see that we did have a workshop in June, and that's moving right along. Okay, some exciting findings that we've had with our shipping point and marketplace program. We've seen an increased request in our potato shipping point inspections. We've had requests in the north and the south this year. So we have received assistance from Idaho in doing those inspections. In order for our inspectors to actually be able to, they have to be credentialed by USDA. It's a fairly comprehensive course that they have to go through. They have to have hands-on training. But we are in the process of trying to seek some federal funds to support the travel for training. They'd have to be going to Utah for some time. And also we have to take into account some of the COVID circumstances. So we're hopeful in the near future, we'll be able to secure those funds and get those folks out to training so we can provide that service in state. And segueing into that, we actually, we've been under the impression that terminal market inspections have been in demand. We've heard that from USDA. We do receive inquiries, but to expand a little bit on what that is, it's essentially doing an inspection at the receival point to confirm that the product received is the actual grade that was ordered and the quality that was ordered. So for instance, if somebody ordered a quality of tomato that they intend for fresh consumption and they receive something that would typically be a quality used for salsa or for something preserved, so not as desirable on the shelf, that would be a situation where the inspector could then say, this does not meet standard, it's rejected, it's not what you ordered. And that goes both ways, really. Also for the seller, they've had shipments rejected that would have met those standards, and they didn't really have anything to fall back on. So it would really serve in both those capacities, but it is very expensive to send staff for the training. Just each commodity requires an extensive amount of training and on-site training, so they'd be going out of state to receive that. So we wanted to find out what the commodities were of specific demand and what level. So we issued a survey. We did receive a fair amount of response and basically concluded that yes, there certainly is demand, and we had specific commodities that were identified that were a particular need, and that's tomatoes, grapes, citrus, avocados, onions, and melons, and potatoes. So same thing, we're trying to secure some federal funds to help support that very extensive training cost to be able to provide that in state. But it's exciting, and we're hopeful that we'll make traction in that in the coming months. Those were kind of the high level things that I had on my list, and concludes my update. Happy to answer any questions, Chairman.
Thank you, Ashley. Are there any questions?
Yes, I have one, or actually two for Ashley.
Okay, Paul, go ahead.
Hey, Ashley. The question I had was one, I see that there's a proposed new licensing for seed distributors or seed sellers. Just wanted to know if that is in addition to the regular nursery license that we pay for. Also, well, as you mentioned, those are already being checked by the ag department as they come in through the nurseries and do their inspections.
For the record, Ashley Jepson, no, that's a great question. So It is an additional fee, and it's not trying to capture the time that the nursery inspectors are verifying the label information. It's actually to cover the cost for the seed analysis. So it would be a $75 annual fee for retailers, which would apply to the nurseries. And it would be for them to actually look at the seed itself in the lab. And then to do any follow-up compliance, but not, there wouldn't be any added costs for what the nursery inspectors are currently doing now. It's a different compliance concern.
All right, thank you. The second question I had was on the noxious weed program. It was just recently that was stated that the Penicillium cetaceum varieties all were being added to the noxious weed. There's one on the red fountain grass. I know that that it's normally listed as a cetaceum, I believe, Penicillium cetaceum rubra or red. But I've got some information that states that, if I could read it from this this book on grasses, Encyclopedia of Grasses, that many species of self-sowing are self-sowing readily, and a few are considered noxious weeds in parts of the world. Recent research has determined, excuse me, that some of the purple fountain grass previously known as Penicillium cetaceum are in fact hybrids between this species and Penicillium macrostachium, and are now correctly referred to by the new published name of Penicillium advenum. Penicillium advena. And it states that that variety does not produce the fertile seed that the Penicillium cetaceum variety does. And I just wanted to know if that was included in, or is going to be included in that noxious weed, or whether the varieties that are sold currently in the retail nurseries would be exempt from that.
For the record, Ashley Jepson, I did actually see some email exchange on this specific topic, and I'm not sure if it was actually another nursery that brought it to our attention. So I'm going to do a little bit more research on those specific species and see what we can link. And basically, we want to assess the risk, and if we can conclude that that risk is minimal, then we'll make that determination. So let me take a look. Let me do a little bit of research. I think I took fairly good notes, but I might be reaching back out to you for some clarification, and we'll circle back with you if that's okay.
That'd be great. Appreciate it, Ashley. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Ashley. Any other questions? Go ahead, Jim Snyder. You're on mute, bud.
Okay, now do you hear me?
Gotcha, Jim. Go ahead.
Ashley, can you tell us what area the white rot occurred in?
I'm going to confirm, oh, sorry, for the record, Ashley Jepson, I'm going to confirm, but I believe it was in Topaz. But I will confirm and send you a direct email if that works.
All right, very good. Thank you. It was only one strike?
It was just one this year, yep.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, board. Any other questions for Ashley? Thanks a lot, Ashley, for what you guys do. Winter's right around the corner, so hang in there. We're going to move to item number 10 on the agenda, animal industry. Mr. Doug Ferris, the floor is yours.
Chairman, this is Amy Mitchell, Animal Industry State Veterinarian. I'm going to be presenting for.
Perfect. Go ahead.
I know everybody has the report in front of them. I'm just going to go through most of the highlights and elaborate where I can. Most important pending matters of significance currently, the filling of the Ely Agricultural Police Officer 2 position has been approved. We have started recruitment. The Elko laboratory does remain closed while we try to fill that position. We are requesting that the biologist 3 position be reclassified to a microbiologist 3 position. Once that is approved, we will proceed with that recruitment as well. Until then, the Elko laboratory will still remain closed. Program staff did hold 2 workshops for proposed language to NAC 564 and 565. Currently, the public hearing and adoption step is scheduled for tomorrow on the 9th. Revisions to proposed language NAC 571 have been drafted. We did complete a public survey, and we are in currently process of producing a small business impact statement so that we can proceed with a workshop, which will be noticed when we have that completed. Proposed revisions to NAC 583, meat, fish, produce, and poultry and eggs. Public survey, small business impact statement, and the public workshop were completed. During the public workshop, we did receive substantial negative feedback for the language that we presented. So when staff time allows, we will be revisiting that for a complete revision in the future. NACs that are still pending review currently of proposed revisions include NAC 441A, infectious disease, toxic agents, NAC 573, public sales of livestock, 577, animal remedies, veterinary biologics and pharmaceuticals, and NAC 584, dairy products and substitutes. Regarding partnership activities, NDA and USDA Wildlife continue working jointly, performing wildlife damage management operations. NDA staff are also currently and continuing to work with USDA APHIS on our ADT traceability plan moving forward. We did complete and submit all of our reports to USDA APHIS for Q1. NDA continues to renewed the Wild Horse Connection non-exclusive cooperative agreement in August 21 for the management of the Virginia Range feral stray horses. Thus far, monthly calls to date are 62 from July. Wild Horse Campaign and NDA continue in the 3rd year of the non-exclusive cooperative agreement, which is valid until April 30th of 2022. We continue to receive monthly reporting from AWHC concerning the Virginia Range Estray and Feral Horse Fertility Program. That program is ongoing with a total of 208 doses of that fertility control vaccine administered, including primers and boosters for FY22. Program updates, commercial feed currently has 387 registered and active accounts for this fiscal year. Livestock enforcement has been quite busy. I'll read through some of the high points here. We now have 4 agricultural police officers operating throughout the state. They continue to work on new livestock investigations with 28 thus far, 23 follow-up investigations, continue on 3 animal health investigations, and we had a diversion issue on a CVI that included 759 animals that had to be quarantined. We continue to work on traffic stops, citations that are issued, and responses to the Virginia Range Feral Stray Horse Program, as well as roadway issues. In livestock identification, staff have currently completed 1,320 brand inspection clearance certificates for a total of 30,395 animals. The brand inspector staff worked a total of 1,215 hours and traveled over 24,000 miles performing these brand inspections. Division staff renewed 52 brands, approved 31 brand applications, and transferred 10 brands. 78 agricultural licenses for FY22 have been issued so far. And the Sparks office continues to receive calls, and so far more than 50 phone calls or emails relating to the Virginia Range of stray feral horses have been received since July 1. Regarding predatory animal and rodent control, park employees have provided technical assistance, non-lethal predator recommendations, and removal of predators were required across the state. The primary predators that we continue to see include coyotes at 81%, ravens at 9%, and the remaining amount is represented by lions, striped skunks, and badgers. Employees provided public outreach to 56 individuals or businesses since July 1, and 2 samples are taken from predatory animals during this time. Total losses in agriculture due to predatory issues consists of 27 sheep that were killed during the reporting period. Veterinary medical services for FY22, the ADL performed 3,328 tests and or services to date. The volume has increased to previous due to West Nile surveillance and equine infectious anemia testing for the BLM horses. ADL is impacted by supply back orders in light of COVID, and it has impacted workflow. These back orders consisted of plastics and consumables. We do want to issue a huge thanks to Renown Regional Medical Center and Charles River Laboratories, who came through for us and helped us in borrowing supplies to lessen the impacts of these testing limitations. The ADL was also happy to reciprocate to Renown with specific consumables used in biology. So we just want to say a big thank you for all the public support to help keep our lab afloat and keep us on track with our testing. The ADL is currently working with CDC and public health on a project related to data modernization. This will allow real-time surveillance of rabies in animals, informing of disease emergence and spread, and improving our electronic laboratory reporting surveillance work and cloud-based services. All technical staff working in the ADL participated in the 2021 Animal Plant Health Inspection Service EIA proficiency test, and we're all successful in passing. So our lab is accredited going forward to continue to perform that test. The division continues to work through impacts related to grant funding. CDC's epidemiology and laboratory capacity grant has been impacted by COVID-19. The laboratory will have limited funds to cover West Nile virus going forward and through FY 2022. Trick investigations continue, and we still have multi-state investigations regarding that disease. We completed our quarterly inspection of the swine scrap facilities. One facility received its normal quarterly inspection, and then we did a pre-licensing inspection of a new facility that also intends to supply scrap feeding for swine. Our HDV2 investigations continue. We continue to work with USDA APHIS on testing protocols for that disease. Currently, we have 8 counties affected. All public information we are updating on our website. I am continuing to work with state One Health partners with consults relating to SARS-CoV-2 in animals. It does seem to have decreased substantially, but we are still following CDC guidelines as far as when to test animals for SARS-CoV-2. For RFID tags, we continue to issue both the white RFID tags and OCB tags through our offices at no cost to producers and veterinarians, and you can contact us for more information. We still have tags available for the remainder of this year and are working on having enough through the next fiscal year as well. We have current pending investigations that we are working with local law enforcement and animal control authorities on regarding animal investigations, and those including livestock and public health. We continue to investigate illegal imports, including multiple multi-state investigations. And we're continuing to work with industry partners, including USDA APHIS, on several disease investigations. Some of those are zoonotic diseases, and we have worked with local and state governments also on some zoonotic diseases that impacted public health. Myself and the state diagnostician continue to implement our new biopsy techniques for scrapie. And I'm happy to say that we are waiting on our final numbers, but we believe we are hitting those numbers this year for our scrapie eradication program, and continue to work proactively at hitting those numbers in the next fiscal year as well. I completed virtual training courses in foreign animal disease diagnostics and TB testing, at least on the virtual side. Currently, training across the board is still postponed for in-person training, but we'll pursue that avenue as soon as that's available. Most importantly, probably in veterinary services right now, I'm sure everyone's aware of the African swine fever detections in Dominican Republic. I continue to be in contact with USDA veterinary services as well as other state animal health officials on making sure we do everything we can to protect our livestock industries within the state, and keeping an eye on how we're preventing the exposure for any industry partners within the United States as well for trade. Regarding the dairy department, Animal Industries Dairy Program was awarded $14,464 towards lab automation. This will be used to upgrade existing lab equipment, including a microscope, water baths, adding redundant or backup automation to support our testing endeavors. This project is supported and funded by the FDA and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Division posted new opening for that microbiologist 4 position in Sparks, which supports testing and inspections to support our grade A dairy program. Inspection staff was pretty busy this quarter. They conducted 3 food manufacturing processing facility inspections, 2 re-inspections, 7 dairy farm inspections, and 5 re-inspections. Out of 14 milk pasteurizers in the state, they've already done 8 total equipment tests during this quarter. We issued 5 warning and compliance notifications. 2 complaints were received and investigated. Inspectors continue to work on meat facility inspections as they are requested and as they are come up due for routine inspections. Inspectors have collected 111 milk samples and 3 water samples. They've also evaluated 5 milk plant samplers and 23 bulk milk haulers during this quarter. They continue to inspect farm plant ratings and perform those ratings and have conducted 2 so far, including 1 lab evaluation and 6 single-serve facility inspections. 4 milk tank truck inspections were completed, 2 consumer inquiries were investigated, and inspection staff completed 2 food safety plan reviews and 4 label reviews. 2 of the staff members in the dairy department did complete FDA pasteurization training virtually because currently that's all that's offered, so we are continuing on training as well. Following testing and evaluation, one of our employees did pass certification and is now a delegated sampling surveillance officer, which means that she can sample independently, so we'll have extra hands in the field to respond to those requests and inspections. Auditors conducted retail price surveys and general store check investigations for 59 locations in southern and northern Nevada marketing areas. Audit staff have completed 7 investigative remittance and closeout audits to date. Audit reviews yielded $21,865 in remittances due and late fees in total of $2,186 that were collected. So far, our assessment remittances that we've collected for FY22 include $76,650 in yogurt, $18,175 in ice cream and novelties, and almost $14,000 in cottage cheese. 3 new applicants were now registered as distributors due to the work of our audit investigators who completed work and were able to account for $21,943 in new revenues from dairy product remittance reporting. And currently our dairy distribution program has 233 active licensee accounts. Moving on to our industry impact. We have re-implemented those dairy assessments. During the 2021 legislative session, it was determined that by 2024, the dairy program budget would be insolvent. In addition, the budget committee chose to eliminate the program's vacant operation manager position to achieve a cost savings. It should be noted that at the time that that position was eliminated, the revenue accounted for with the re-implementation of assessments was not included during that determination. So hopefully we'll be able to get to that position back in the future. For NRS 584410, the NDA is required to collect revenue through assessments of dairy products to provide funding for the dairy program, including enforcement. The dairy program's budget shortfall was due to in part for the reduction of the butter assessment from a penny per pound to 0. And from the milk and cream assessment from 4 10,000ths of a dollar per pound to 0 also. Effective July 1 of this year, the NDA implemented the collection of dairy product assessments for butter and fluid milk and cream, with the previous assessments of butter at a penny per pound and fluid milk or cream at 4 10,000ths of a dollar per pound. Distributors and affected parties were provided 2 notifications prior to us implementing those assessments. And that is all I have. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you so much, Amy. That's a lot of data, a lot of information. But yeah, I think it's all pertinent to animal industry. Great job out there. Does the board have any questions for Amy? Yes, go ahead, Mr. Dufferina.
Hi, Amy. Just a couple questions here. First of all, I wanted to note 3,200 and something horses individually identified on the Virginia race. That's a lot of horses. And I'm sure they're not all identified. Wow. When do you train the new brand inspector? Do you know when they're going to bring on the new, not the full-time jobs, but the regular brand inspectors?
Amy Mitchell, for the record, I don't have that information on hand. I can definitely find out for you and get back with you on that.
Is that, I heard something about training in October. I'm just curious when that was going to happen. We've got a couple people out here that do want to get into it, and we definitely need them. So I don't know what I've been asked, and I'm just curious as to when they're planning on doing the training and or hiring or whatever they're going to do there. The other question I had was on trick herds. Do you have anybody now on hold order, or is there anything going on with trick? Probably wrong time of year, really, for much to happen.
Amy Mitchell, for the record, you would think it would be the wrong time of year, but we still do have outstanding hold orders pending from previous season. So
okay, yeah, I was just kind of wondering where that was. And my final question was on the RFID tags. Do you guys distribute the Bangs RFID tag, the 840 for brucellosis? Do you guys distribute those two, the orange ones?
Amy Mitchell, for the record, yes, we do. We have both the white RFID for producers that want to start the RFID, that want to implement RFID in their herds. We also have the orange Bangs RFID tags for any veterinarians who are going out to do vaccines. So they can contact us, and we have a quick list of just data that we collect before we issue the tag, so we can make sure we maintain traceability, but we do have both.
Okay, so I just get a hold of my vet, and she would get a hold of you, and then go through there.
Absolutely, because the OCV is a regulatory program, so we have to have their certificates filled out and submitted. So that's why the veterinarian has to request.
Sure. Yeah, no, I understand that, but yeah, and you have plenty of them, I assume.
We do so far. My goal is to order the maximum allotment that we have by the end of this year, which would be the end of September. And then I believe we're waiting on funding to see if they'll be available for the next fiscal year, but we have quite a bit. So I'm making sure we have.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Tim. Amy, is there any other questions for Amy in animal industry? Awesome. Thanks again, Amy. We'll move to agenda line item number 11, administration. That would be Jerry Conrad. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning. It's still morning, right? Yes. Okay. So I will touch on some of these, some of the points on the administrative board report, but if you have any questions on anything else, just please let me know, and I'm happy to talk about those or bring in somebody who can. So program updates, Trade and Economic Development Program. We completed 2 virtual trade missions, one with buyers in South Korea and one with Canada, that introduced 64 buyers to 5 Nevada companies. We conducted visits with 8 food and agricultural companies in Southern Nevada to discuss new marketing, trade, and economic development efforts, and presented on trade resources that the NDA offers, and provided an economic spotlight on Douglas County to the Minden Rotary Club. Communications and promotions, various news releases, and fielded media inquiries, including the announcement of Nevada Food and Agriculture Industries breaking trade records in the first quarter of 2021. That's pretty exciting. And then lastly, I just wanted to touch on some, across the department, staff has been working hard to build out our Finding Nevada Food areas on our website. And these pages, there's been some information on there, but trying to make it more robust and, you know, kind of a all in one place for mostly consumer driven, but obviously anybody will find information there useful. The pages include information on what's in season, food safety, some recipes, and where to find Nevada grown food, agriculture, and food produced in Nevada, and including places like what grocery stores, farmers markets, CSA boxes, online markets, and of course on-farm direct to producers and ranchers. So that's all I have for today, unless anybody has any questions.
Any questions for Jerry? Thank you very much. I know it's been kind of slow as far as a lot of the information out there, but we've been getting pretty thorough kind of updates and stuff like that. We appreciate that as well. So any questions for Jerry in regards to administration or public? Man, you're off the hook today, Jerry. You're getting it doesn't look like we have any comments or any hands up in the background, Samantha? Nope. Okay. Thank you, Sam. I appreciate that. So we're moving right into agenda item number 12, public comment. It's open for any public comment. There's a hand there, I think.
Yes, it's Miss Grace.
Go ahead, Valerie, I believe.
Oh, this is Valerie Drake for the record. I would just like to bring up concerning the repurposing of the used fuel tanks for water tanks for ag use. With the availability of the E15 gasoline coming up in the market, I think we might find some stations changing their tanks and upgrading. So right now might be a perfect time to really get with the EPA to see about getting approval to clean tanks up for use for water for ag use. And I believe this is probably something that this project, the petroleum industry, can support. So anything I can do to help out too, I'm willing to raise my hand and be there. So thank you.
Thank you, Valerie, for your comments. I believe it was Pete Paris had public comment.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I don't know. I either want to enter this under public comment or going back to agenda item number 6, whichever you prefer. But I would like to make a clarification that I misspoke when I used the word brand inspector when I fully meant ag enforcement officers in my presentation. In my mind, I'm always lumping these two together. I see the ag enforcement officer doing inspections on the side of the road the other day, and I do know the difference. I completely, the two, where the brand inspectors are feed inspectors, but my intention was to use the words ag enforcement officer. So just to clarify that for the record, I would appreciate that.
Absolutely,
Thank
Pete.
you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Samantha, do you see any virtual hands or anything?
I do not.
Okay, perfect. Any other public comments? Awesome. Hearing none, we're going to close item number 12 on the agenda, public comments. And then the final one, I just want to say thank you for everybody for participating today and getting together. Mask, no mask. We'll get together one of these days for sure. We'll have to definitely just adhere to whatever the state has their guidelines. But I appreciate it. Everybody do well out there. Be safe and enjoy the blue sky. Thank you very much. We're going to adjourn for today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Woody. Have a good one.
All right. See you guys later. Be safe
Yeah,
out there.
thanks.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
Good health to all.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you very much. Have a good day.
All right. Thank you, Pete. Appreciate it.